Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Honest HR Nitrous. I am Bill, the company's expert. I apologize for the late start today. I was just detained. Welcome to the live stream. I do these several times a week, and it's a live Q&A. So that would make anyone happy. This is your big chance to ask me questions if you are struggling with anything to do with job search, or you're wondering about anything, what's going on the other side of the table, when you're dealing with recruiters or hiring managers, or if you're an introvert, how you can network, and still stomach it and be good at it. All that stuff. We're here talking about job search and careers. Excuse me. The title of this episode, this is episode number 207 of Honest HR Nitrous. This is called Your Resume Isn't the Problem, Live Job Search Fixes. So if you are a subscriber to my channel and have been so for any amount of time, get in the chat. You should see a chat box somewhere in the vicinity of my face, depending on what device you're watching this on. I adjust my microphone. Get in the chat, let me know what's up with you, and I will do my best to answer your question. I have not pre-prepared anything. I'm here purely to answer your questions. So public service announcement, just to start things off. I normally don't do this, but here's the deal. So it turns out that YouTube has done some weird stuff with the algorithm and has messed with member-only videos. So what happened was I had a bunch of member-only videos, I still do, and only members can see those. And when the whole member-only thing started several years ago, it was just for members. It's pretty simple. It's a way to give extra videos and extra content to people who join my channel as members. And right there. And that worked fine for several years. And then apparently there's been a recent change where YouTube starts showing the members-only videos to the general public. They're pushing them out to the public so they appear on your home screen and things like that. But it's annoying because it says it's a member-only video. So you get shown this video. Now, if you click on it, it says, well, you can't see the video until you join as a member. And then, first of all, people probably get pissed off when they see that, and then they leave. And they can't watch the video anyway. So I'm not the only one that thinks it's kind of weird. So what I've had to do, I added a bunch of members-only videos, and then I've had to take them away because of this behavior. At least for the moment, I'm still keeping my members program because I like my members, but I just can't have any of the members-only videos, unfortunately, because they mess up my entire channel, apparently, and that's what's happened in the last month. So that's the deal. If you're a member, you should see that, but I do appreciate you. They weren't super popular anyway. It's not like everybody joined to watch the members-only videos. They joined to support me, and I appreciate you. And I give you priority in terms of getting your questions answered and things like this. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If you're a member and you're wondering where the hell all the videos went, that's the deal. I feel like I have no choice. I feel like I've been kind of bullied into that. But there it is. Okay, let's over to you guys. So Dragon, is that how you say that? Dragon is here. Says, yay, hello. My position was just terminated in a layoff yesterday. What do you recommend my first steps should be? Wow. Okay, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that, my friend. That sucks. However, I don't know if this is any consolation, but you are not alone. That's a common thing. Okay, so here's what I would say. Okay. The obvious thing is, I'll just get this out of the way. The obvious thing is to take a moment and take care of your mental health. Because depending on the details and your situation, some people can really, it's a real gut punch. And they're useless in that moment to do anything productive. So I'm not sure if that's you or not, but would be the first thing. Okay, so if you need a couple of days, just do it. Try and artificially do things that you normally would enjoy. So, if you like watching movies, or you like playing video games, or you like reading books, or you like watching TV, or you like hanging out with friends, or whatever is your deal, you know, that's what you normally enjoy, force yourself to try and do it. Because once you start doing it, you get all the blood chemicals and you start to feel a little bit better about things. You won't feel like doing it, but do it. And that's how you usually get through bad stuff, at least in the moment. Okay. Now, beyond all that, okay, beyond all the psychological stuff, in terms of like what to do productively in terms of a job search, okay, you're going to be doing a job search campaign, obviously. The campaign shouldn't be just one thing. It should be 2 or 3 things. So, for example, looking at posted jobs online, that could be one of the things you do. Now, if that's one of the things you do, I strongly recommend that is not the only thing you do. I did a video that's, I believe it's linked. No, maybe it isn't linked, but anyway, it might be linked in the description box under this. It's called How I Would Get a Job. Okay. You can see that on my channel. Just say The Company's Expert, How I'd Get a Job. And it's like a 45-minute video, and it goes through 11 different methods of job search. Okay. So you could pick, of those 11, and maybe even there's more, pick 2 or 3 of those and then just do those hard, okay? The thing that I would recommend, if I had to choose a method, like I said in the video, is I would focus on something called direct outreach. I would get on LinkedIn. I'd certainly get the free month of LinkedIn just so you could do people searches, and I do what I call direct outreach, which is basically, you know, this is for introverts. So if you're an introvert, this would be good for you. Where what you do is you find all the employers around you that have potential to hire you because they hire similar people. And then you find the hiring managers within those organizations. The first part is Google Maps. The second part is LinkedIn. Okay, so find all the employers, Google Maps, find the individuals within those employers that are the hiring managers. That's LinkedIn. And send a message to them. That could also be LinkedIn, of some kind. It could be a connection request, could be an in-mail, but I prefer a connection request. And then if these people connect to you, then you send them a message saying, you know, hello. What's the standard thing I always say? Hello, my name is X. I do this. I'm a fully qualified X. I solve this problem. You know, I live close by. I, you know, would love to work for you. If you happen to be looking for someone that can do that, please let me know. I live close by. I would love to work for you. Just like that template message, and then just blast that out to all the hiring managers, the relevant hiring managers in those organizations. So I talk about that in the video. Find that video and do that. That's what I recommend. Informational interviews are another one. There's all kinds of stuff you can apply in person. If you do happen to have a large personal network, you tap that. So there's like multiple things there, okay? And I would say every day do a little bit of each, okay? So if you're fully unemployed, you have the whole day or most of the day to try and find a job. I'd say at least 1 hour on each of those. And turn over every stone, and you know that will ensure that you get hired as quickly as possible. You know, and hopefully things will work out for you. I'm sure they will. Sooner or later, something will happen, but hopefully it's sooner. Okay. And if you have any questions along the way, come back and ask, and I'll help out if I can. Okay. Best of luck to you, my friend. Tulga Erickson says, hi, if you have some white space in your resume, do you think it's a good idea to fill that with hobbies section? Okay. No, I don't. I think that if you do have white space, you should fill it up, but with stuff that's going to have more of an impact than hobbies. Your resume exists to get the interview. That's the entire purpose of a resume. It's not to give them everything they could possibly know to make a decision to hire you. Okay? it's one piece of what they need to see. Okay, so for example, if they want to know what kind of person you are, that's going to be the interview. Okay, if they want to know if you're technically qualified to do the job, which comes first, that's your resume. So unless your hobbies include things that like will have the job requirements in them, no. If you want to beef up your resume, I would add accomplishments and duties. Ideally both for every position you've listed on there. Okay? So duties are what you did. You know, I fulfilled customer requests. I ensured this happened, you know, whatever. Those are like duties and responsibilities. Accomplishments are, it's something that was achieved, and the key thing that lets you know it's an accomplishment is that it's got a number in there. Usually, it'll have a percentage, right? Or it'll have just some kind of number. Now, for management stuff, it's going to be either percentage or money, right? Those are the two things. Saved $50,000 by implementing this system. Improved customer request denials by 12%. You know, like that kind of stuff. For people at the worker level, you could have things other than percentage and money. You could have like, you know, I stacked 50,000 boxes per month or something like that, you know, like, but the key is you have a number. And, you know, it's some kind of achievement. This is what I did. This is what I managed to do, right? So I would think about those things, because I recommend that you have both for each work experience, like each job you've had. So I would think in that direction in terms of beefing up your resume rather than just adding hobbies and stuff. That would be my advice. So hopefully that makes sense. Sandy says, good advice. I took some time. It's been 9 months. Career coaching, new resumes, applications daily, networking, articulation, and mock interview, perhaps several phase to interview, still unemployed. I'm sorry to hear that, Sandy. I mean, it seems like you're doing the right things from what you've said. When you say networking, I just want everyone to know that networking is an umbrella term for many different types of activity. Okay? For example, there are 3 kinds of things that I would lean into if you can. There's only one that's really optional, and that's the first type of networking, which is tapping your existing network. So, for example, you would reach out to people. Let's say you have people that are former coworkers of yours, and now they're working in other organizations. My camera dropped down. There we go. Good view, isn't it? This is my good side. Tapping a existing network, that some people have an existing network, others don't. They might know a few people, but it doesn't come to anything. That's a common thing, actually, especially for introverts. But that's one of several types of networking where you like there's a process to like reach out to people you haven't talked to in a few years. You know, either over email or over LinkedIn. You know, it's like a 3-message thing. You don't start by saying, hey, I need a job, you know, can you help me? Like, for example, right? So look that up in like, you know, ChatGPT or Google or something. There's a 3-message system there. That's one type. The other type that I find is much more useful is direct outreach that I already kind of talked about, where you're reaching out to hundreds of employers around you, like all the individuals that are hiring managers inside those organizations that, you know, are appropriate for you. It's the department you would work in an organization that hires people like you. You know, the person who runs that, who manages the people in that department, that's the hiring manager. That's somebody you should reach out to and say, hey, you know, I'm a fully qualified whatever. If ever you're looking for that, let me know. You know, I'd love to work for you. I live nearby. So that's direct outreach. That's another type of networking. A third type of networking that I recommend is informational interviews. Now, this comes a little bit later because it's much more labor intensive. You're not going to have hundreds of targets for this. You're going to have like a handful, right? But you're going to go deep. You're going to put a lot of effort in to pursue that lead because that's a promising lead. Okay, so there's a lot of things in the umbrella of networking. So I would count them as individual things as part of your job search. If your job search involves doing 2 or 3 things, each of those types of networking qualifies as one thing, right? So so there you go. That's kind of just so everybody understands. A lot of people misunderstand networking, especially at the worker level. But I wish you every luck, Sandy. And if you have any questions, let me know. Dragon says, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, he's talking to Sandy. We have a member, Calabash9, TJ, says, how handle interviews for jobs that are 1, not in my desired career area, and 2, where I am overqualified for the position. Example, mid-level IT manager, but interviewing for court clerk job. Okay, God, there's so much to unpack there. That's gonna be a long thing. But you know what? You're a member, so membership has privileges. Okay, first of all, just so you know, usually when you get a job interview with a recruiter for a job that isn't in your area, your career area, okay, you're saying it's not your desired career area. If you don't desire it, maybe you shouldn't be there. Okay, so that's the first thing I'll say. Because if you're just going to like sort of throw it back in their face, then we're not even going to talk about that. Normally you can't get those because if it's like recruiters are hypersensitive to, have you done this before? You know? And if the answer is no, then they don't even consider you for it. You know, even if you got the education to do it or the training to do it, have you done it before? No? Okay. Sorry. We're not even going to talk to you. That's a very common thing. Okay. So usually you can't get an interview for something that's like in a different career with a recruiter. Now, hiring managers are different. If you're talking to a hiring manager, I don't know if that really classifies as a job interview because it's just a conversation usually. They don't ask you those canned questions. They just want to have a conversation with you. You know, that's usually how it goes. Okay. Now, if you are overqualified, I've done a lot of videos before talking about how overqualified is a bullshit term. There's no such thing as being all overqualified. How can you be too qualified to do something? It's idiotic. What it really refers to is 2 things. Number 1, assumptions they're making about you based on stereotypes, like the assumption that, you know, you will not find the compensation desirable, and you will not stay. Those are all assumptions based on stereotypes. Okay, so that literally doesn't mean overqualified. That means an assumption they're going to make about you. We're not even going to offer you this job because we're assuming that if we did, you wouldn't take it, right? We don't want the offer thrown back in our face for multiple reasons. So we're going to offer it to someone who, you know, it seems like this is more their level, right? It's a stupid way of thinking. It's ultimately, it's short-term gain, long-term fail for organizations, by the way. But anyway, that's beside the point. So overqualified is this whole thing. The other thing that when people say overqualified, the other reason for that word is that it's a euphemism for the real reason they rejected you, which they don't want to admit. Either you're too old or something like that. They're going to make something, but it's very, very politically incorrect, you know, to say that, and they don't want to disclose that. So they just use the blanket term overqualified, which sounds nice, but it's really just a mask for what's really going on there. Okay. So you're not overqualified for something by definition. Okay. What you're describing is a career change. You're going from IT to being a court clerk. Okay. That's a career change. 2 different professions, right? Or vocations. And the way you can certainly do that. People change careers all the time. But the key thing is they don't go through recruiters to do it. Because what's the recruiter's first question going to be to you? How many years experience do you have doing this, right? And you're going to say 0 because I'm changing careers, right? So they go, oh, 0 years experience. Okay, well then I'm sorry. We're passing by. We're passing you by. So you can change careers, but you talk to hiring managers. Hiring managers, in this case, would be the boss of the court clerks, whatever that position is. The chief clerk or the clerk of the court. I have no idea. Whoever that would be the hiring manager, not a recruiter. That's how you can get those. Right? Does that make sense? That splits off into multiple different topics. If you have questions on it, we could get into it. Tolga Erickson says, what are core competencies? I screenshotted my resume and sent it to AI for feedback, and it told me to add in core competencies section. Okay, well, you can look this up, like just on a Google search. The definition of core competencies is basically what it is that you do, right? So, for example, are you an IT person? Are you a mechanic? Are you a lawyer? Are you an architect? Are you a medical doctor? Are you a journeyman pipe fitter? What are you? What is it that you do? That's the basic main thing that you do. If you went to school for 6 years to learn how to do a thing, and then you spent 15 years working in that thing, that's your core competency, right? You might have done other things, but they're not your main line, right? So that's what a core competency is. It's not a standard thing to have a section called core competencies, if that's what it's advising you to do. Sandy says, I spend a great deal of time networking with existing connections and recently started new outreaches to hiring managers and people in my field. That direct outreach led to a phase 2 interview. Okay, good. Yeah, like direct outreach is the thing that I would most recommend people do. Because just like you pepper, the job boards with job applications, you could send out many job applications in a day. And if you do that every day, you're sending out hundreds of these things, right? Just like you can do that, you're sending out hundreds of leads, trying to pursue leads. You can do that for direct outreach. You could send out 100 of those template messages in a day, potentially, to 100 hiring managers at organizations near you that could hire you, right? And there's a lot more than you would think out there. There's so many targets. People that are looking for someone right now. And, your advantage is that you land right in their lap right before they look further afield. They might have just realized, I need to hire someone. And then, bam, your message comes in. It's like, wait a minute. This person could be good. Let's check them out. So you get first dibs, right? That's how these things work. Most jobs are filled before they get posted, right? Only 20% or so of jobs are posted. I think it's less than, I think it's about 15 in my experience. So the great thing about direct outreach is that you're putting yourself forward for all those jobs, the 80% or so that, you would never see, right? Now, dealing with your, tapping your existing network can do that too, but usually, even if you knew 500 people that you reached out to that knew you, then that's a stretch. Even if you did that, that's 500 people. It just has to happen that they're hiring someone right where that person works now, right now, that fits you. That's a pretty tall order. So the likelihood of those people of it turning into something are not great, right? That's why with direct outreach, you don't have that personal connection, so it's a little weaker, but you could do many times more targets than you can with tapping your existing network. You're welcome, Sandy. I wish you the best. David Gardner says, I love your stuff. It's gold, mate. Thank you. I've been a vocational employment advisor for about 8 years, but I still learn a bunch from your videos. Well, thank you, my friend. That's very high praise. You're right where the rubber meets the road with this stuff. So I don't envy you, and I think that I can imagine you have a lot of experience seeing a lot of different things. So that's really valuable. My close personal friend, Calabash9 says, it's really just meant to be temporary. Still looking for jobs in my actual field. Just a job to get by for now. Yeah, you see, the problem is that's what they assume, right? This was the IT going to the court clerk thing. The problem is that's what they assume. They think like, you're not serious. You're just, you just want a job temporarily. You're not gonna be here for the long haul. In 6 months, you're gonna be gone, and then we're right back where we are now. If we hire you, we're right back here in 6 months. We should look for somebody that's gonna stick around. This is what they want to do. If they were in this job for 5 years, they'd be happy. So that's what you're up against, unfortunately. So you have to convince people that like this isn't just a, like it's a temporary thing. I really don't care about this. You have to convince them that no, like I'm thinking of making a change, and this could be it. I like organization. I like formality. I like very firm procedures that everybody sticks to. And that's what draws me to a court environment. People care about precision. People care about following the procedure. I feel at home in an environment like that. That's what brings me here. So you give me this job, I suspect I'm going to love it, and I'm going to thrive, and I'm going to stick around. That kind of thing. That's what they're, what may be the way forward. I'm not sure for you. Sandy says, I love the suggestion. For those afraid to shoot your shot sending cold emails, you have nothing to lose, send the emails. Well, you do have something to lose, Sandy, and that's the opportunity cost. Because while you're exhausting yourself sending out tons of emails, you are sapping your energy and your time to do things that might be more productive. So anyway, I never recommend blasting out emails. They're the worst form of communication. They're the easiest to ignore. For people that have too many emails, it's great because you just have to do nothing and then the problem solves itself. And I've observed a lot of people do that. So anyway, I'd prefer reaching out over LinkedIn to people that are on LinkedIn, like the people that are actively on LinkedIn. Something that I've done over and over myself over many years, and that I've recommended, and that I recommend in my course, by the way, is to reach out to people over LinkedIn, but you do it in kind of 2 steps. So number one, first of all, you're going to find so many targets, it's going to be mind-boggling. There's so many people that, are relevant. They could be hiring managers. There's so many organizations around you. There's so many leads. So you have usually most people have an overabundance of targets. So first of all, I would lead with connection requests. That would be the first message, and see if people will connect with you. And this is what I've done. Now, when I've done, the only stat I have on this is from like 7 years ago, when I built my consulting business, and it was just going to CEOs. So not to, people lower down, but just CEOs of organizations in my city. And it was, God, I'm trying to remember this. This is all in my course. It was, the first one was 30, yeah, that was it. The first one was 30% response rate. So of the people that I sent a connection request to, 30% of them responded and accepted my connection request. So that was the first half. And then of the people that accepted the connection request, of those 30%, I then sent the pitch, the thing that I wanted, which in this case was that thing I said earlier, which was, I'm a fully qualified whatever. If ever you're looking for someone like that, please let me know. I'd love to work for you, and I live nearby. Have a great day. So like that's the pitch. That's the ask, right? So of the 30% that accepted my connection requests, 20% of them responded favorably to the ask. And I can't remember what the ask was. I think this might have been with reference to informational interviews. So I got an informational interview with the CEO. So that's 30% and then 20%. So the math works out to, if you have 100 people, 30 people accept your connection request. Of the 30, 20% of those, so 6, give you the informational interview, I think was the ask. So out of 100 people, you get 6 informational interviews, and that's just going to CEOs. So that was my stats, my metrics for that. And then of the informational interviews, I can't remember what it was, that it was like 10% or whatever it was, it became a client of mine. So so that was like, it's like the funnel. It's like a marketing funnel, but going down. That's what this is. So if you get your stuff right, you have the right message, and you fixed up your LinkedIn profile so there's no red flags. Because the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look at your profile. They're going to say, who is this person sending me this? And they go, okay. Now, if you got a bunch of red flags on there, your picture shows you drunk and partying with people, it has like sales written all over it, or other kind of questionable stuff, they probably won't want to respond. If it all looks in order, then that person would have responded. So there's a bunch of things you got to do, but if you do that right, that's what you get, and then it works out. Anyway, where was I here? Calabash 9 says makes sense. Okay, good. Somebody's quoting the Bible, which is wonderful. Wait, so if applying to online postings isn't the best way to do it, and reaching out via email isn't the best way to do it, what do we do? I'm 2 months into a very active job search and frustrated. Okay, Jay, listen, I'm going to say to you what I say to everybody. Don't take my word for anything. What I'm trying to get you to do is I'm trying to get you to do your own research, okay? Now, you say you're frustrated, okay? Yeah, if you're just applying to posted jobs on the internet, it's going to be frustrating. Most people don't get hired that way. It's a very bad way of finding a job, actually, as maybe you are discovering. All I'm saying is that when you reach out to people for direct outreach, okay, and what that is that's when you're going to employers around you that have potential to hire you, and you're going not just to anybody, like anybody in the company, you're going to the hiring managers. So for example, let's say you're an accountant and you want to get a job as an accountant. Well, you would look at, for want of a start, you would look at accounting companies near you. And then within the accounting company, there would be a manager at that company that supervises a team of accountants, right? That would be a hiring manager, right? If they're a manager in charge of a team, they're managing a team. The accountants report to that person. Maybe they're a senior accountant. Maybe they're a chief financial officer. Maybe they're some kind of administrator. I have no idea. But whoever they report to, that would be the hiring manager, because that person is in charge of hiring and firing the accountants on the team, right? Ultimately, they have final say of who gets fired and who gets hired, because they're responsible for that team and the work that team has to do, right? So you don't know this person. You've never met them in your life, but you can find them with the internet, and then you can send them a message, right? That's direct outreach. And your message is going to be some form of saying, hello, I'm here, I can do this. If ever you're looking for an accountant that kicks ass and lives close by and wants to work for you, consider me. That's all. Have yourself a great day. If ever you're looking for that, consider me. Goodbye. Right? That's basically the message, the gist of the message you're going to send them. Now, if that lands on the desk of, or comes across the computer of someone who isn't hiring an accountant right now, big deal. It doesn't matter. The answer is going to be no. They're just going to ignore it, right? But there are a certain number of people out there, maybe if it's only 1% of these people, who are actually actively looking for an accountant to join their team right now, right? That's not going to be most people. That's going to be a tiny fraction of people. It could be 5%, could be 1%, could be 0.1%. But some people out there are looking for an accountant in your city right now. They're looking for a lawyer in your city right now. They're looking for a machinist in your city right now. They're looking for a technician to work the night shift right now in your city, right? So if that person is looking for an accountant and your message arrives, this is great for them, because assuming there's no red flags with it, then they'll go, hey, instead of me doing all the crap I've got to do to hire somebody, like sit down with recruiters and have long discussions about what the requirements should be and what should be on the job posting, sit in round after round of job interview, pay somebody to filter all the applications and interview and screen people for, like, this is very expensive and very time consuming. I don't have time for this because I'm a chief accountant and I need to do all this accounting work. Hiring people is not my deal. I want to get that crap over with so I can get on with what my job actually is, which is getting this accounting work done, right? So here is someone who seems to be a fully qualified accountant. They live nearby. They want to work here. They've found me. They've shown their initiative. They've shown their professionalism. They've given me a sample of their communication skills. That's already more than I would get with like a stack of resumes, right? Maybe I should respond to this person and say, hey, send me a resume, or you know, do you have time for a 15-minute call or a meeting or whatever, right? Because if this person works out, I can just get them hired and get on with things. Okay, so that's the idea behind all this. Okay, now don't take my word for anything. Go out and do your own research, okay? You'll see that this is true. Then go and try stuff, okay? Now, yes, I have a course. If you are looking to learn this all with me, like step by step, and I lay everything down, it can really help. I'm not here to try and sell you something. I'm just saying that that's a resource for you. That's helped a lot of people, and it covers not just this, but other aspects of job search. So you could check that out. You know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna do this because I wanted to do this anyway here. So check out my course. This is the course I've been talking about right now. There is a link to it in the description box under this live stream, and there's also a video linked that describes the course. So it explains how it works and what you get and the whole deal in the effort of being as transparent as possible. Very popular course, has helped a lot of people, and it teaches you two things. Number one, how to get hired in the posted job market, if that's what you're trying to do. And then number two, how to get hired in the hidden job market, which is what I've just been talking about for the last 20 minutes or so. Okay, it's geared towards introverts. And yeah, all my advice all in one place, all laid out logically with templates and everything. Okay, so check that out. Okay, Sandy says, that's what I was referring to, cold emails to hiring managers in your field on LinkedIn. Well, I was referring to communicating with them over LinkedIn, like LinkedIn messages. I don't have a problem with written messages. All I'm saying is that I would prefer a message on LinkedIn instead of an email. Like, and I described specifically the message that I would send would be, the first thing I would send would be a connection request, right? With a note, right? A lot of people don't respond to any connection request if you don't know the person and there's no note. It's like, forget it. But if there's a note explaining, just adding a personal touch, and I've put in my course what I think the note should be, a very specific thing to say. I much prefer that than sending out a generic email, because there's so much spam on email and people learn to ignore it. So, like, what's your reaction when you get an email from someone you don't know that's trying to ask for something? What's your response to that? Usually people go, what? I don't know you. What's this? Oh, you're asking for something? junk, ban user, or block user, or block email address, whatever. So I'm just saying that that's what you're up against when you're sending out cold emails. Generally, it's not the way to go, in my opinion. But if you've had success with it, then good for you. The thing about this stuff is that everything works some of the time. That's just the nature of it. Even if you say, like, don't ever do this, it'll never work, somebody always comes back with, like, well, I did that. I told them to F off and they gave me the job, So everything works some of the time. That's the problem. But the likelihood of things working, that's what is driving certainly my recommendations. J Double says, sorry if I came off rude, was typing on the fly while multitasking. J Double. Okay. No, you didn't come off rude, my friend. It's all good in the hood. Okay. Makes sense. Thank you. You're absolutely welcome, J Double. J Double. Let's see. JW. That's an American thing, right? Usually you got a big, like, 10-gallon hat, and it's JW. And JW would say something like yippee-yi-ki-yay and, have their spurs on the back of their boots as they walk around the room in a business meeting. Yeah. Okay, we've reached the end of questions, so that's the deal. Get in the chat. Let me know if you guys have any more questions. I'm here now, obviously, and then I am back with another live stream in an hour on a slightly different topic. But I'm basically answering questions, so just send me some questions. I don't have anything pre-prepared for these live streams. I'm here purely responding to what you guys say. So send me your questions or whatever you're curious about or you're struggling with. We can get into it if that would help. J Double says, things ain't too bad though. I've got some interviews and contract work. Good. Okay. That's good. Yeah, that's kind of, I know this is not exactly what you're saying, but it's kind of like pointing to a trend that we're seeing these days where a lot of people are, I don't know what the term is, but they're not just getting their income from one source only. Traditionally you'd have like a career job, your day job. That's where you make all your money, and you're entirely dependent on that day job for 100% of your income. What we're seeing increasingly, this is not like a major trend, but it is a trend kind of rising in the background, is people that are, they almost have like a portfolio of different things that are making the money. So, you might have two jobs, maybe two part-time jobs or something, or a side hustle, so you're getting your income from more than a single source, and not only does that allow you to make more money, like if you have a career job and then you have a side hustle, you can make more money, but also you get that security, because if anything happens to one income source, you have the other one, right? Especially in the case of a side hustle where, if something happens to your day job, you do have money coming in from a side hustle, but you now have the option of ramping up the side hustle into a full-time, business and ramping up your income from it. So you have multiple options there, and that's what we're seeing increasingly. Multiple streams of income. Yes, exactly. Sometimes multiple streams of income, they're all really dependent on one thing. So they're multiple income streams, but they're not independent. They're all related, Yeah. So, yep. Anyway, let me give me some questions. I made an announcement at the beginning of this live stream, just to my YouTube channel members. YouTube has been screwing around with the algorithm again, and it's created a bit of controversy on this, because what it was doing apparently is it started showing the thumbnails for members-only videos to the general public, which is stupid, because the general public sees the thumbnail for a members only video, like in their feed. And they click on it, but then it says you can't watch this video unless you join as a member. Now, most people don't join as a member. I think the idea is that it's to try and get you to join the whatever channel as a member so you can see the video, like pay to see this video. But for most people, just going to annoy them, right? Like, have you seen those in your feed? Like where it's showing you members only videos, restricted access until you pay. Now it started doing that to my channel. So it took the handful of members only videos that I had and started showing them to like just the general public. Now this was bad because not only did it annoy a lot of my subscribers and stuff, they're being pushed videos they can't watch and it's annoying, you know, but it's not showing my public videos. Instead, it's showing members only videos. So anyway, so it's a big thing with YouTube. So the bottom line is that I've had to remove or delist pretty much all my members only videos to stop this behavior. It's really a shame. You know, it used to be the members thing was a way to like put added content just to members. So you could go deeper on stuff, but it wasn't meant for like the general public. You know what I mean? And wasn't trying to recruit anybody or get anybody to sign up by promoting these things. That's all YouTube. So it's kind of ruined it for the members. I still appreciate my members. I still give you guys priority on like asking questions and things like this. But just the videos aren't really happening right now. Unfortunately, I feel like I've been bullied into this situation. You know, so, but anyway, that's the change that just happened today. So if you're seeing that. Calabash9 says, that's actually how I ended up joining as a member after I watched a few of your non-members only videos first. Yeah, the non-members only videos, yeah. You know, but the thing is, like, it's literally showing like hundreds of thousands or millions of impressions just to get like 2 new members or something. You know what I mean? Like it's stupid. It's just annoying people because it's showing you, promoting a video that you can't watch unless you pay. And that was never my intention with those videos. So anyway, that's all. But I'm glad that you're here, Calabash9. You know, thank you for your support, and you do get priority on questions. Animator Fan says, I see a lot of members only thumbnails in my feed. It does that for a lot of my channels. Yeah, I know, and it's annoying. And the thing that I don't like about YouTube is that they do stuff and they don't tell you about it. They just make a change. Like, here's what we're doing. We're doing this to your audience. You know, we're doing this thing with your channel to your audience, and we don't tell you. And then you only find out when you see like people getting upset or whatever. So anyway, that's the deal. Yeah, some people are talking about an Animator Fan, others aren't. And I think what makes it worse is that there's like a setting that says, you know, you could turn off being shown the members only videos, or like the channel for members only videos. And it's like, you know, it's just bad. It's bad for me and my channel. So they kind of took that and they used it against the YouTuber. Anyway, J Double says, what are your thoughts on developing skills during your job hunt? Finding I have gaps in my industry. Previous job was good stepping stone, but didn't give me as much new skills as I would have liked. Okay, what are your thoughts on developing skills? Like you want to like take training, basically. You want to go back to school. You want to take some courses. It's not a stupid idea, but put it this way, you shouldn't. The vast majority of people are not going to need to get training while they're unemployed in order to get a job. Like most people, you're employable as you are, you know? Now, could you improve and could you gain some valuable skills that will help your prospects of getting hired quicker? Yes. But given the choice, I would probably focus on just job search rather than going back to school, unless like money is not a problem for you, you know, and you could be unemployed for a while and you're okay with that. Now, it is good to take a couple of courses while you're unemployed, because if ever you develop a long work gap, like let's say you were laid off in January and it's now November, you've been unemployed for 11 months, you may get a question from a recruiter, why is there this 11th month gap, right? Like they ask stuff like that. I mean, I would have thought tact would prevent you from asking that, because you could probably guess why that gap is there. This person is trying to find a job. I mean, hello, most people have multi-month gaps, sometimes it goes into the years sometimes, but that's typical. But yet they'll ask you about it, and then they'll consider the gap a risk factor. They'll say, well, no one else was wanting to hire you. Maybe that's a red flag. Maybe there's a reason why that we haven't detected yet, so that makes you a higher risk candidate. It's a red flag. It's stupid. Now, if ever that comes up, if you can say, well, listen, I wasn't unemployed. I went back to school. I identified that there was a deficiency in my skills. I didn't have the latest training in this industry for this role. I got myself some industry and job-specific training. I also trained myself on AI and a bunch of other things. I took some courses online. Now I'm familiar with it. Whatever. And now that my skills are updated, I'm ready to rejoin the workforce, and that's why I'm here. Something like that. Then that eliminates the whole, I'm risky because I've been out of work a long time and people start to think that there's something wrong with me, So taking some courses online, like just some free courses or whatever, can give you a legitimate answer to that question of the work gap thing. So that's one good thing about it. Calabash says, I'm sorry YouTube is screwing with your mode of operation, though. Yeah, I know, it's annoying. They're following a grand tradition of having done that for years, unfortunately. Fatal Dinosaur says, hello there, kind sir. I really appreciate your help for the people. Well, thank you, my good friend. That's a very gracious thing for you to say, and I do appreciate it. It's comments like that make me continue to do this. Dr. Sid says, you're awesome and hope you keep doing what you're doing. Let me show off that I'm a member. Wink. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yes. What was it? A nod's as good to a... What's something that nods good to a blind bat? Anyway. I'm dating myself. Thank you, Dr. Sid. I appreciate it. Very kind. You guys are awesome. I'm serious. J Double says, yeah, I meant more along the lines of courses, certifications, helpful answer. Yeah, so you could do it. It's just that if all I'm saying is that if you need a job now, don't think that you need to go back to school to get a job. For the vast majority of people, that is not the case. You are employable. You have a lot of skills as it is. Find something that caters to that. And then if you do want to update your skills, you can do that later on when you have money coming in the door. This is all I'm saying. J Double says, LOL, yeah, why is there a gap in your resume? Because I've spent months having dumb conversations. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, job interviews with recruiters are among the most artificial interactions you will ever have in your entire life. Every question is like, it's not their question. It's strategic and rehearsed and crafted. Every answer you give for most candidates is like, every answer is, strategic and crafted. It's totally artificial, right? So like both sides are doing this dog and pony show of like, let's step through this dog and pony show of like, It's silly. Now, if you do get a chance to talk to hiring managers by themselves without recruiters present, it tends to be more enjoyable, more productive, and more honest. You get into what you've done and how, why you did it a certain way, and what's your philosophy of doing that, and what's formed that philosophy, and what have you seen, and all that kind of stuff. It's a bit more of a real conversation usually when you're talking to a hiring manager, not a recruiter. Now, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to say this. Recruiters actually get beat up a little more than sometimes they deserve because, you see, the thing is, something that's been talked about a lot is that recruiters don't understand the technicalities of the job they're hiring for, right? So if you are a fully qualified engineer or something, and you go to a job interview and you're sitting down with a recruiter, the recruiter is not an engineer. The recruiter barely even knows what engineering is. But yet, they're the ones that are deciding whether you're a better engineer than the next candidate. Right? So people beat up on recruiters because of that. They say, well, you're totally unsuited to deciding, who's a better candidate. Now, that's all true, and it is a ridiculous situation, and I absolutely agree with that. However, most people miss the point. The recruiter is never intended to evaluate you on your technical competence. That's not what the recruiter is there to do. That's not what they're there to do. Instead, they're evaluating you as a person. So things like how professional you are. What are your communication skills? What are your collaboration skills? Can people actually work with you? What are your motivations? Do you actually like doing this work, or do you really want to be somewhere else? And you've got your sights on that. You don't have to be an engineer to find this stuff out. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they're evaluating you on. People seem to miss that point a lot of the time. Yes, this person doesn't know anything about being an engineer, but they understand things like, do you really enjoy this work or not? Are you able to work with other people? Or are you totally off-putting? Are you unprofessional? Are you someone that's going to be insufferable on the job? Usually you can tell that because they're insufferable in the interview. They're hostile. They lose their temper. They get visibly frustrated and annoyed just answering a few questions. This is the stuff they're checking for. And ironically, when you study why people leave jobs, and it's not like I've done this, but there are a lot of people in this world who do. People who, have degrees in business, like degrees in management, that specialize in HR, that study this kind of stuff, right? You find that people don't leave because of the nature of the work. They leave because of personal matters, dealing with other people. Maybe they didn't click with their boss, or maybe they just couldn't work with other people, or it was too just contentious, right? That's why people leave. They have a terrible time. There's all kinds of friction. There's all kinds of problems, and then it results in them leaving one way or another. So the recruiter is there to screen you for that kind of stuff. That's what they're there for. Now, you do get a lot of technical types, and I can say this, I'm a technical type. I got a degree in engineering or whatever. And back like in a past life. And the thing is, a lot of technical people, they're just not tuned into this at all, And so, in my opinion, these people really need to gain some awareness of what's actually going on. Yes, this person isn't an engineer, but they are assessing you on your personality, on your work style, on your motivations, on your social abilities, on your communication abilities. That's the kind of stuff you really need to watch out for, because that's what they're assessing you on. So, and based on whether you have those or not, they're going to make a call, right? And it's not stupid, because this is the stuff that decides whether you succeed there or you don't. So it's really not as out to lunch as a lot of people might guess, That's the game that you're playing, unfortunately. Like it or not, that's the game these employers want to play. So that's what you're playing. A lot of people just don't recognize it. J-Double, every company these days also has this overblown sense of importance as if they're hiring you to work at NASA and you must have that level of passion and excitement for it. Yes, they do. You're absolutely right. And it's ridiculous. I remember being a candidate back in the day, and just the level of arrogance of some of these people is just like right off the scale. So I agree with you. On the other hand, a lot of candidates, it's basically the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect for an organization. They all think they're so damn good. But the thing is, the people that make all the decisions, their survival depends on the organization succeeding, right? So that's why they're putting such focus on it. And candidates do the same thing. We all do this. We all have the spotlight effect where we think the entire world revolves around us. I mean, how many candidates have come to a job interview and just, been dismayed to find that these people just don't really care about you, Now, some of that is the reaction to it is reasonable because these people are unprofessional, they're rude, they have no clue what they're doing, and it's just a disrespectful experience for the candidates. So, yeah, some of it's deserved. But the thing is, these people, they're behaving just like you. You think that, the organization is going to dance to your every whim. It's not. That's the deal. And a lot of candidates fail because they assume that, you need to recruit me. Come on, you need to woo me, and then they're upset to find that that doesn't happen. You have to make a case for yourself. You have to sell yourself. And it's almost like an actor thinking like it's demeaning for a director to tell them they have to audition. I thought you'd just give me the part. You know who I am. Come on. What do you mean I've got to audition? That's a slap in the face. It's like, no, it isn't. You've got to sell yourself. So it goes both ways. What's reasonable? I've seen both. I've seen a lot of trust me, I've seen both. A lot of useless recruiters, arrogant. They've got little Hitler syndrome. I've seen hiring managers do that. They're absolutely insufferable. They overinflate their importance. They're ignorant and arrogant all at once. But then again, I've seen really arrogant candidates, especially in fields that happen to be booming right now. So they're really arrogant. Oh yeah, I just get a job by showing up, IT. I've heard that for years. And then of course their industry takes a nosedive because it's very volatile. And then they're all panicking and they're all, it's unpleasant. But that's kind of that's what's going on here. I've seen both, and everyone does it. Anyway, I'm sorry for that rambling trip to nowhere. Anyway, I was basically agreeing with JW. It's or J double. Sorry, you're going to get me to say that in my head each time now. McLovin says they never explain the responsibilities of the job when advertising. Just 5 or 6 buzzwords like team player and 1 or 2 specific to job like can use X software. Yeah, there's multiple reasons for that. It could be multiple things. Number 1, they don't have a clue what they're doing, and it's pretty damn obvious. Number 2, it could be a fake job. That type of thing is a characteristic of fake jobs that are fake jobs because they're trying to probe the labor market. They're trying to see who's out there, how much money they're looking for, what's the level of talent, what's the level of availability, at what price point, right? Like that's, so you get these very general job descriptions. You know what I mean? But yeah, this is why most people don't get hired through posted jobs. I mean, we're talking like 15, 20% of people get hired through posted jobs. This is why, And what I mean by that is that the employers are driving that. They're hiring people before the job gets posted. Joshua Joseph says, hello, if you were unable to find work within 12 to 24 months of graduating, would you say it's worth going back to school and upskill, get a master's, or would that be too late? No, it's not. Now listen, for some people, yes, because you got to do something, right? But it's bad for multiple things. First of all, I'm making the assumption that, you have actual, like you have skills and abilities that someone in the real world could use, right? If you've taken a degree in the most useless thing known to man that nobody wants, nobody on the face of the planet is looking for someone who knows that stuff, then I would say going back to school is probably your answer, but I wouldn't say maybe taking a master's in whatever useless thing you took. Most people are not in that situation. Most people have something useful, real. You have a bachelor degree, or you have a trade ticket, or you have, community college, whatever you've got. You've got some kind of post-secondary education qualification in something that somebody's looking for. Somebody could use you. Now, if the problem is you can't connect to the people that are looking for someone like you, then you need to solve that problem, right? Because taking more schooling and then coming out, what's to guarantee that at the end of taking a master's, you won't find yourself right back in the same situation? So as I said earlier, like in the real world, like everything happens some of the time, right? But the likelihood of the problem being that, it's a problem with your networking, your ability to connect to an employer that could use your skills and see your value, that's what the problem is. So more schooling is not going to fix that. The solution to the problem is to try and get better at job search. Okay? If you're starting from the point where people like you are employed and you have something useful, then you need to try and get employed. Now, listen, I've said this a couple of times, and people have varying reactions to it. But I'm going to say it again. If you go on LinkedIn and you do like a people search, now you may need the premium version of LinkedIn. So like they offer that free month or whatever, you can get the free month. But do a search for like whatever education credential you have that you're trying to get hired with, and it's not working. So let's say you got a degree in like a Bachelor of Psychology or something, just for want of something, and you're wondering like, is this going to get me a job? Like, is this something that makes me employable or not? Is it worthwhile trying to get a job with this, or should I reskill? Should I go back to school and get something else? Do a people search on LinkedIn. Confine it to, say, your hometown, like if you live in a city or a region, and do a search for that credential. So Bachelor of Psychology, like, whatever the abbreviation is. Now, if it's a people search, so what you're going to get is you're going to get individuals showing up in the search results. They have Bachelor of Psychology somewhere on their profile. So presumably they are either in school for it or they have it, right? Now, look at their situation. If they're all pumping gas and, serving coffee, that tells you something. Excuse me. If they're all like gainfully employed at mid-level manager positions in various organizations and they're doing fine, that tells you something else, right? Now, people have pointed out that this is far from conclusive evidence, and it's not meant to be conclusive evidence. It's a general indicator of like, normally how does it go with that qualification? If you can't find it, that means it's pretty rare. Maybe there aren't any people out there really with that. It's very new, or there's not many people that have it in your region. But if you immediately find a whole bunch of people that are gainfully employed, that shows at least potential, right? Now, you could go further. You could look at their profile, okay? Because your profile is kind of like your resume. It's a general idea of your career path. What do these people do? Where are they working? That might be able to tell you something useful. And then you can always reach out to those people if you really want to go far, and just send them a message saying, could I have a 15-minute phone call with you, perhaps? Just a quick call. I see you have a Bachelor of Philosophy. I myself have a Bachelor of Philosophy. I would just wanted to ask you a few questions about your career and what are your thoughts are on having that educational credential or something like that. And you can get some insight into it. They could say, oh yeah, I found it useful, but it's only useful in these circles. These people recognize it, whereas all those other people don't, or something like that. So that's something you can do. And then learn how to network. Learn how, like, if you're an introvert, There's a ton of things you can do online. We talked about direct outreach here. I have a course, this course. You could get my course, or you could just look at the free videos on my channel. That gives you some of it. But I talk about that, like learn how to get hired, learn how to do job search. Just shielding yourself from it for another 2 or 3 years is really, in my opinion, is not really the way to go, because there's no guarantee that you're not going to be right back in the same problem. And if you're getting a master's, you're going further down that path. You know, some places would have hired you for a bachelor, but less places will hire you with a master's, because it's usually an upscale thing. You know, some industries behave like that, others don't. So you just need to learn some skills on how to connect with people that see your value and can help you, can give you a job, or they can give you contract work or whatever. That would be my opinion on that. Okay, but learn as much as you can about solving the actual problem. Don't hide from it. Now, that said, my mother did precisely that back in the day, like in the 60s or whatever. She had a bachelor degree of engineering, couldn't get a job because there was like a recession that year. That's the story she told me. And so she went back and got a master's in chemical engineering. And then decided she didn't want to be an engineer. And then worked in fledgling IT industry. So I don't know what that proves. Everybody's got their own path, I guess. McLevin is talking to Joshua. Guido says, different perspective. I've conducted a few interviews in the last few months for a lead position, and some people make it seem as if we are applying to them. Very hard to like someone like that. Okay. He says, if we are applying to them, it's very... Oh, you mean like candidates are kind of arrogant and they think that, you as the employer are applying to them. Yeah, that's why I've always said, like, I've always contradicted people when they say, like, oh, it's a two-way thing. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. No, it really isn't. It really isn't. The difference is that you lined up to interview with us, whereas we haven't lined up to interview with you. You know? You're here because we said we have a job, we're looking for someone. Do you want it? If you do, here's what we need you to do. And you said, I do want it, so I'm going to go and do those things. Right? And that's why they ultimately decide whether you work there or not. God, excuse me. I've got a real dry throat today for some reason. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, Guido. Most people are awesome, but every once in a while, you get someone like really arrogant who just doesn't understand what's going on. You know, it's like, we are looking for somebody. We said, if you are interested, you could apply and we'll consider you. But I don't, like, the employer doesn't owe you anything, you know? So, you know what I mean? Other than professionalism, you know what I mean? But I think behind that, there's a problem, because you get a lot of introverted people, you get a lot of technical people that I can really sympathize with and empathize with, that they get annoyed that they're being evaluated in such a way. They're expecting to be evaluated on their technical abilities, and they get upset to find out that no, you know, now you have to speak to a recruiter who doesn't know the first thing about the technical aspects of this role or this industry. And they get angry about that, and they're confused, and it comes out in arrogance and impatience in the interview, you know? And it's like, I can sympathize with that. I can empathize. I've had that. I've been asked such stupid questions back when I was like a candidate for jobs. You have to go cap in hand to these people. And they ask you such asinine things. Like, a lot of these canned interview questions are like that. You know, they're insulting, they're stupid, they're asinine. Like, you know, why do you want this job? You know, stuff like that. Why should I hire you? You know, on the surface, if you don't know the big strategy behind these questions that's like hidden, you know, you don't have a bachelor's of philosophy. You instead just take everything at face value because you're a technical person. You're used to reading technical manuals. You know, you don't look at the symbolism behind the words and the context clues to interpret what the true meaning of this is. You don't think like that in your everyday conversation with people. Instead, you get upset when you hear an asinine question. I blew an interview, I remember like 30 years plus ago. Someone asked me, their first question was, so what does success look like to you? And I remember, like, this is obviously before I tuned into some of these idiotic questions and what is meant by them. But if you just parse the words, it's like, well, success to me would be you giving me the job. Hello? You know, I didn't say that, but I got noticeably frustrated. And I think that just blew the interview for me. Like, it was pretty clear. But a lot of people fall into that too. Calabash 9 says, I heard some advice recently about starting up an LLC as soon as you get fired, so that if it takes a while to find a new job, you have self-employment, consulting maybe to fill the gap. Thoughts? Well, first of all, LLC is an American thing. It's a structure of a corporation that you get in America. I'm in Canada. We don't have that. It's pretty simple. Either you form a proprietorship, a partnership, or a corporation. I mean, LLC is just a corporation, but has some characteristics of a proprietorship, as I understand it. I don't know. That's an American thing. I have no idea. Like, if you're going to actually do a side hustle, of course. I mean, you don't need a job. A lot of people don't work at a job. They are self-employed, or, you know, they start their own company successfully, and that's how they make money. And you can make more money than as an employee. But that depends on you knowing what to do, you know, and wanting to do that. Usually you don't do it because you get fired. You know, it might be the impetus that gives you a kick to finally go out on a limb and do this thing that you've always wanted to do. But it's risky. It's very risky to do that, you know, when you don't have an income source. So I would say, like, do the thing that's going to get money coming in the door soonest. And for most people, that would be finding a job and not starting their own entrepreneurial venture. I do a live stream every week. We have a live stream this week on Thursday called Side Hustle Ideas, where we talk about entrepreneurship. I mean, that's actually my core competency, is growing businesses. So that's where we talk about that. And I've worked with small business, and I've worked with SMEs and startup founders and things for years, just sometimes formally and sometimes just as a fun thing on the side. So we talk about that every week on a live stream. So if you are interested in that, we could talk about that on Thursday. If you come back, we'll be discussing that. Okay, so just a reminder to everybody, we've got this course. I've talked about that. I have 2 other courses for a total of 3. And this is the other one that people here might be interested in. This is if you want to improve your communication skills. So everything I learned about communication skills, going from a supervisor when I started to a CEO, which was the high point of my corporate career, everything I learned along the way about communication skills, I put into this course. It's called Write Like a Professional. Yeah, it's about writing, but it's about what to say. It's about the reactions that you get when you say different things or you communicate different things, how to get the reaction you want. And there's a ton of stuff in there. Like, for example, I can show you how to write in such a way that no matter how complicated the thing is that you're talking about, you could be talking about quantum mechanics or whatever, you know, really complex thing. I can show you how to write in such a way that when people read it, they will never, ever have to go back and reread a sentence because they didn't get it the first time around. So it's like things like this. I've taught this in university. I've taught a lot of this stuff. in business school, in university and things like this. So if you're interested in that, check out this course. Communication skills are disproportionately important because the moment you open your mouth, like in a job interview or on the job, people are judging you based on your communication skills. And especially a lot of introverted people and technical people, there's a lot of talent and capability hidden behind a very bad veneer. So communication skills really make you give a good first impression and things like this. They allow you to be perceived as someone who's got high potential, should be promoted, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're interested in that, check out the course. Link in the description box below this live stream. And there's also an accompanying video linked that describes the course in great detail. So it's pretty transparent about how it works and what you get and all that stuff. So check it out. Link in the description box below. And for the sheer hell of it, here's the third course called the $100 MBA. We were just talking about side hustles and starting your own company and all that kind of stuff. If you are serious about that, if that's something you've always wanted to do, but you never went to business school, you don't know how it works, check out this course. This is the best bang for the buck you will ever find. This teaches you the entire content that you would get from a Master's of Business Administration. I have an MBA, for what that's worth. And what this is, it's a self-study course. So basically you get all the textbooks, the same content that they study in the top MBA schools in the world, places like Harvard Business School, things like that. You're getting the same content. A lot of courses are taught right out of books. You're getting the books. And then I provide a ton of videos where I guide you through the whole thing. So this is an extremely flexible solution. So if you only have an hour a week to put to this stuff, that's fine. If you just want to skim the whole thing, but you don't want to go in depth, you just want to get the gist of how business works, you can do that. If you're interested in just one area, you care about, say, marketing, but you don't give a rat's ass about finance, that's fine. You can just study marketing if that's what you want to do. So it's extremely flexible. If you want to really go in depth in everything, you certainly can. But business is the scientific study of how to make money. That's what it is. So as you can appreciate, it's very useful to learn for a variety of reasons. So if you're interested in that, check out this course. Once again, linked in the description box below this live stream. And it has an accompanying video that explains the course and how it works and what you get and all that. So check it out. A lot of satisfied people. These have helped a lot of people, especially the Get Hired course, which is the first course I did. So a lot of good stuff there. Okay, we're going to quickly sort of wrap this up because I gotta get rolling because I have another live stream scheduled to start on this channel in 25 minutes. So let's see here. So Guido, okay, we did do Calabash 9, right? Yes. Okay, so Guido says, I was always afraid of the question, where do you see yourself in a few years? Because I usually like to stay honest. Yeah, well, you can either be honest or you can make a good impression, right? The two things kind of, unfortunately, they contradict a lot of times, right? So in a job interview, for example, usually the more correct philosophy is to make a good impression. And it's not that you have to lie through your teeth. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that you strategically don't say certain things because it sounds bad. It looks bad when people don't understand you. They don't know you. They don't know the context, right? So anyway, this question, where do you see yourself in a few years? This is one of the standard job interview questions. It's the future question. They have the icebreaker question and the concluding question. Tell me about yourself and do you have any questions for us? They have the strengths question and the weakness question, right? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses, right? They have the past question and the future question. The past question is, why did you leave your last job? The future question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Right? So this is the future question. Now, a lot of people, this is one of those questions that I was referring to 5 minutes ago. This is one of those questions where the meaning, the literal words that they ask you usually convey a different meaning than the way the question is intended, right? It sounds like they're trying to get you to make a prediction about your future. You can't. That's stupid. It's also ironic because you're at a job interview, the recruiter is deciding on you whether they should hire you or not. Ironically, the recruiter is in a better position to make a prediction about your future than you are, because if you get this job or not, it's going to obviously change things. That's not how this question is meant. They are trying to probe to see what you would want to do with your life. What type of work would you want to do? Now, if you're applying for this job, but you tell them what I really want to do is this other thing way over here that has nothing to do with this, it's a fail. You just blew the interview. Right? Yes, I'm applying for the role of sewage treatment attendant. They say, what do you want to do with your life? Oh, well, I want to be a rock star. Right? Well, it's like, okay, so what can you conclude? Well, you conclude that this is not really what you want to do. And the moment you get your rock star career taken off, you're going to quit. You're not going to be a sewage treatment attendant. You could be like David Lee Roth and, wiggle your butt on stage while simultaneously being like a medical emergency technician, like a paramedic, which is, I think, kind of what he might have done at some point. He was like a fully qualified paramedic, and then but he kept coming back to it or something. Anyway, right? But that's what the question is designed, it's engineered to reveal. It's so that you reveal what you really want to do. Right? And if it doesn't match what this job is, at least approximately, then you failed the question. Okay? So that's what they're going for here. Right? So the correct answer is some version of this job, or at least something like related to it. So for example, sewage treatment attendant, they say, where you want to be in 5 years? You say, oh, I want to be working on something that, where I know what I'm doing and I have my own responsibilities and, I feel a sense of satisfaction doing it. I know what I have to do. I do it and I feel good about it. I feel like I'm productive. I feel like I'm, serving a purpose. That's what brings me here. It's like, I just want to do something that, there isn't any confusion as to what your job is. It's pretty clear. I know what I got to do. I do it. I see work being done. I feel productive. I feel useful. Something like that. That would be about the furthest you could stray from like describing your actual job. So the best answer is to say something to do with this, something along these lines, maybe advancing, right? That's kind of the general idea of what's going on there. Animator fan, he has a complete video on that. So yes, I've got a video on all the job interview questions. They're all in a playlist, actually, called Get Hired. So you can check that out. Anyway, we got 30 people here. Thanks for being here. You, and I mean you're awesome. Thank you for being here. I will be back in 20 minutes on this channel with another episode of Honest HR Nitrous. We're just taking a bit of an intermission. Come back if you got more questions. And I will see you soon. I wish you the absolute best of luck. Take care.